Hello again, and here we are, a Perfectly Paranormal, episode 119. My name's Annaschmidt, and I'm here every week to share with you true paranormal encounters and information about devils, demons, and dark energy beings that no one else talks about. And today you get the lowdown on how to create bedroom boundaries to keep spirits, elementals, freelance, dark and demonic beings, and also summoned entities out of your bedroom. And I'm going to share what I know that works for me and what can very possibly work for you too. Now, sleep. Don't we all love a good night's sleep? But sleep can be disrupted by many personal and environmental aspects. So you've always got to do the debunking first before you assume that something's energetic, because it might not be. But if the debunking leaves you still scratching your head as to what your sleep issues are, then unwanted energetic intruders with dastardly intentions might be the problem. Now, what to do when you're bothered in bed by paranormal perpetrators? And we aren't talking at 3 a.m. People always assume that it's the witching hour when these entities are going to come knocking on your bedroom door, or on your bedroom wall, or on your bedroom window, or on the bed itself. No, it's not how it works. The witching hour isn't really a thing, but people love the drama of it all. Now, I talked about the witching hour in depth back in episode 53, so if you want to check that out, you'll get all the information there. Entities such as spirits, elementals, and the dark paranormal beings. As you know, they're present with us 24/7. They come and go, they're in buildings, they're in other locations, they're around people. But there's also the summoned entities. We can't forget them. These beings are sent by humans to annoy other humans. Each entity type can be removed and kept out of your bedroom. So let's break down the groups and let's see what you can do to get your bedroom back to a peaceful sleeping place. I will say though, before we start, that some entities are easier to remove than others. That's always the case, isn't it? These things are never easy to deal with. And there's those that will need to be removed by professional energy clearers. If you find you can't do the job, you don't want to do the job, and you know there's something in your home, find yourself a trusted energy worker, someone that has a professional level of understanding about these beings that can just shift them out of your home for good. So here are the 4 groups, and we're going to start with the easiest ones to remove of all, and these are the spirits. So spirits, if still earthbound, which means sort of roaming around the earth, visiting friends and family, which is what they quite often do sometimes. Spirits freely come and go. They can be in places, and sometimes they can be stationary, is what I call it. They can be attached to places or past homes where they've lived, or even furniture and other items. Now, beds. Oh my goodness. Beds are notorious for absorbing emotional energy. And sometimes the spirits who pass from this life in their bed, their energy can be still attached to the structure of the bed. Doesn't matter if you get a new mattress or, wash and change the bedding. They can still be present. That's because that's the place where they passed. Sometimes they don't know they've died. That's another aspect. And they're wondering why someone else is sleeping in their bed with them. Now, I talked about a haunted bed. This was really a little bit funny back in episode 23 of this podcast. And it was brought to attention by my dear friend Dean, who lives in the UK. And now that bed is totally clear of the energy that was there, and yes, it was a person who passed away in that bed, the bed is still lovingly referred to as the haunted bed. It just gets a bit of a giggle now. Now, if a spirit-type energy is present in your bedroom, maybe creating cold spots, touching your face, pulling on the doona, whispering, or walking around your bed or sitting on the bed, you all know the things they get up to. This following technique I'm going to share is something that you can use to help a spirit understand that you don't want them in your sleeping space. Spirits respond to acknowledgement, respect, and kindness. Remember, they are still people. They're just without the physical body. They still have the personalities, and most of the time they can all be reasoned with. I'm going to share 2 different statements that you can say. Now, the same for shifting all of these entities. I'm giving you a starting point with the statements I'm going to share, but you can adapt them and use them in whichever way you want. This is just a way to get your brain thinking about how you can use this process. I've used both of these statements. The first one is, this is my bedroom and I need to go to sleep now. When you're here, my body can't relax, so I can go to sleep. Please leave my bedroom and my house. Second statement, I can't help you. Please leave and find someone that can help you. Sometimes spirits will be present in homes because they want help. And we're going to talk about energy workers in a moment. Now, you can say these statements once or twice or 3 times. It's just up to you. And then what I do is that I just curl up and go back to sleep. And I used these both a lot in the early days. Now I've got very firm bedroom boundaries. Spirits just don't come in. Or if I do feel that ever so creepy touch on my eyelids or the corner of my mouth or in the corners of my eyes, they love to get your attention. I just redirect them to somewhere that I'm going to talk about in a moment. I've set up something special for them so they don't even need to come into my house. And you can actually do this too. You don't have to be an energy worker or a healer or any of those special things. They're not really special. They're just jobs like everything else. So I'm going to teach you how to set up a transition beam. And you can do it anywhere. So let's not get too sidetracked. Energy workers, anyone who does any type of energy work, and especially if you have an interest in transitioning spirits, spirits are going to come into your house 24/7. They don't work on time. They just go, right, we know Anna does this. I'll just use me as an example. We're just going to come to her whenever we want to, whenever we need to. We'll just roam in and out of the house. We'll poke her, prod her, push her. We'll get her attention. And it's not much fun when you're getting woken up at 1 o'clock and then 2 o'clock and then 3 o'clock and you ask them to leave and they won't go. You need to be firm and you need to let them know why you need to sleep, where you are, because maybe they can't see the bed. Maybe they don't know what you're doing. Maybe they don't remember what sleep is. I don't know because I'm not a spirit. I can't tell you what it's like to be in that state. Now, as an energy worker, I would say all spirits are permanently banned from entering my bedroom and they must wait outside my house and wait until I ask you to enter. It's another thing you can do. If you do want to do spirit transition, so you need to set up a designated space in the home and when they can enter. So something I used to do was I'd say to them, please wait outside my kitchen window and when you see me sit at my desk, open my purple folder, which is my transition folder, then you can enter the kitchen. That worked for a while. But after a while, they don't follow the rules anymore. They just get a little bit like naughty teenagers. They just test the boundaries all the time. Remember, all spirits are permanently banned from entering my bedroom. Put a sign above your bed. Put a sign on your bedroom door saying no spirits are allowed. I mean, they might not come in through your door, but you never know. They come in through walls and windows and, they're just complicated. So this is a solution that I set up around about 12 months ago, and it's still active in my backyard. I asked some representatives from the angelic realm to set up a permanent energetic transition beam in a particular place in my backyard so that the spirits would bypass my house and they would go straight to this transition beam. I asked that if the angelic realm saw spirits coming towards this beam, that they would send down an angelic presence, or I could ring the angel doorbell, which is quite funny. You've got to play with this. Like, you've got to make this process something you can work with. I see it like an elevator. You could make it a lift, you could make it a ladder, or just a tunnel, or, whatever you want to do. And then they go with the angel off into the afterlife. It's really, really simple. A lot of people make this process way too complicated. Because if I visit a site, say I go to the Richmond jail, or I go to an old stately house somewhere, or I'm just in the supermarket, doesn't really matter where. If spirits see me, they follow me home. You can't avoid it. If they know you do the energy work, they're going to follow you, even if you don't do energy work. If they like you, or you look like their grandma, or you look like their son or their daughter, they're like, oh, I like that person, I'm going to go home with them. They're really a little bit tricky to deal with. So set up a transition beam in your backyard, your front yard, the side yard, wherever you've got a space where you don't go very often. It's not going to damage the soil or the plants. I mean, where I've got mine, everything is still growing perfectly well. And so if I do get some random spirits that still come into my house, I'm pointing right now. I point to where this transition beam is and I say, please go to the transition beam. There will be an angelic presence with you in a moment. They will assist you. And away they go. People need instruction. Spirits are people. They just don't have these physical bodies. So have some fun with your transition beam. And I know it works. It is still working to this day. Now, elementals, you'll be saying to yourself, what on earth are elementals? I use that word. That is a collective term for fairies, pixies, gnomes, and, trolls, all other sorts of earthly or nature type spirits or beings. Now, I'm not super knowledgeable about these beings, but I have dealt with gnomes in homes, like that little rhyme there, around about, 6 to 8, maybe 10 times now. So I've got a rough idea of how to manage that relationship with them. Gnomes, and yes, they are real, are just an energy being. Just like all the other energy beings. Gnomes are what I call the bowerbirds of the elemental realm. And yes, they do wear pointy hats. They love shiny things. And they're very, very materialistic. Now, if you are a lover of trinkets and shiny and pretty items and ornaments and crystals and so forth, and a gnome gets wind of this in your home, look out. They might come visiting. Now, they're not harmful. They can be annoying, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. I've got 2 examples for you. Now, we don't technically remove these beings. It's not like trying to get dark or demonic beings or the summoned entities to please go forever, leave my house forever. You can work with the gnomes because remember, they care for nature. You can make compromises with them, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, but you need to have lots of patience when you're working with gnomes. You need to have good negotiating skills and be able to compromise with them. That is the best bet. I've got kicked in the kneecap quite a few times by gnomes when they thought that I was going to be removing them from homes and properties. And I went, no, we just need to compromise. We need to negotiate. So the 2 examples I have for you, a local family here in Tasmania that I know quite well, they decided to turn their old junk room, or it was kind of like a storage room. It's where all the stuff goes that you don't want to deal with. They wanted to turn it into a 3rd bedroom. But little did they know that there was a gnome in that room deeply immersed in all his treasures. Because they're not technically his treasures, but they're things that we forget about and possibly don't want anymore, so they take ownership. Well, in this room there was lots of treasures and they were all stacked up in boxes and there was piles of stuff everywhere. When this family got very studious and they went, right, we're going to get into this room and we're going to clean it out and get rid of all the stuff and turn it into a bedroom, this little elemental being got very, very angry. Thought, right, payback. These beings are all about revenge. I find them quite funny. I hope there's none here now listening to me. So this bedroom got painted and decorated as you would for a teenage girl. And this teenage girl was sleeping in the bed. Well, she was sleeping in the bed kind of because she was being woken up night after night after night. This being would tap her on the forehead. He would just come up and he would tap, 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 tap until she was awake. And he would jump on the bed. And I think he was even maybe pulling on the bedding slightly. And she would go and tell her parents that come and have a look. No, you're dreaming, go back to bed, there's nothing in your room. Well, this girl's quite psychic, so she knew there was something in her room. She couldn't see it, but she could feel it, and when something is tapping on your forehead, you know. So the gnome removal technique, which you may be able to use, I've actually used this with trolls as well, but we don't want to talk about that. We'll just stick to the gnomes. I tuned into the house because I've been to the house before. I knew the layout of the house. I knew where the room was. I just sat at home and I did my long distance tuning in. But if you're in the house, you can just go and sit in the room. Just sit in the room very calmly and you just talk out loud. You talk out loud to whatever is in the room. And this is what I said. This room is a young girl's bedroom and she needs to have her sleep. I understand that you're upset that we have moved your treasures, but you're welcome to stay and occupy another space in the house. Or you can even go out to the shed. We've got a great shed with lots of boxes. Remember, play with the statement. You work on it and utilise it and use it for your situation. But basically what you're doing is you're stating that this is now your bedroom or your daughter's bedroom and that this child will be sleeping here every night. You are welcome to stay in another space in the house or on the property. Please stay out of this bedroom. Thank you very much. Manners are always appreciated. Please and thank you goes down well because it carries a polite vibration. Now also too, this is something else that works. In the newly designated area of the home or the shed, because this being went out to the shed because the family never went in there, and occasionally to get the lawnmower, that was it. And they had boxes and other stuff in the shed. What you can do in the newly designated area is I suggest setting up a peace offering. Now this idea came about from dealing with gnomes in someone else's shed that were stealing tools. They were stealing this lovely man, my dear friend James, who's no longer with us. James was a wood turner and he'd set everything up in a new shed. And he'd go in there and like, where did I put that tool? I know I put that there. Well, these beings were a little bit upset that someone else was occupying their space. So as I was talking to James, I saw in my head a plate, and his partner at that time made beautiful biscuits, like really melt in the mouth shortbread biscuits. And James wasn't adverse to having a beer or a cider, so I went, right, any chance of a small plate with a small glass of beer, maybe a few biscuits, a lolly, take it out to the shed, have a conversation with the beings and go, look, you know what? I'm really sorry I've upset your space. Here's a little peace offering. I hope we can all live in harmony together. It worked. It absolutely worked. And James's tools slowly started to appear again. These beings are quite funny. When you can get over that little bit of fear of the unknown, start at the spirit level, and if you're a dowser and you use a pendulum or you use rods, ask what sort of being you've got present. Or you can just start and use a statement that might work on all of them. Remember, this is just a guideline that I'm giving you in this episode. Play with it and make it your own. You might even find some statements or words or prayers online. Have a look around and just have a play with it. Now, the second example, I had an overseas client who was being woken up at all hours of the night, every night, by scraping and dragging sounds in the ceiling above their bed. Now, the attic was above their bed. The attic was, again, filled with treasures and antiques and stuff from the previous owners and stuff from the new owners, all sort of crammed in there, all sorts of goodies. And two gnomes had taken up residence there, and they were just joyfully rearranging their possessions. Now, the compromise for this situation was that these beings could stay because the people in the house were quite chuffed. Like, they were really, really excited to think that they had gnomes in their ceiling. They had gnomes in their attic. They were really, really happy. But the compromise was that they could stay in the attic with all their goodies if they only moved the items during the day. And then the family and the adults could sleep at night with no problems. Now, this solution was agreed upon really, really quickly, and voila, peaceful sleep reigned throughout the whole house. And the family were out during the day and they didn't care what they moved around. The other thing too is that they weren't allowed to take things from the house that the family used all the time. Because the gnomes get a little bit like, I like that necklace, I like those keys, I like that particular item. We might abscond with it. So this family had the two compromises, and you treat them with respect. Respect generally gets respect back again. We don't own the earth. We are living here with so many other different types of vibrational beings. And I know there's a lot of skeptics out there that don't believe in this stuff. And that's fine. But I know what's here because I'm dealing with it. So I'm just giving you my perspective. Now we're going to move on to the trickier end of the supernatural scale, talking about the dark and the demonic level entities. These dark beings, oh, God love them, they love to mess with us in bed. They know that sleep time is when we're most vulnerable mentally and emotionally, because our conscious mind is resting and our dream and our sleep states take over. And we're just not aware of what's going on around us. And they're like, right, rubbing their little hands together. This is when we can get in closer to the people and feed off whatever emotions they're creating, whatever's attached to the bed and so forth. Now, I've talked about fear feeders numerous times in this podcast, so we'll use them as the example today. They love to get into your head, affecting your dreams and creating fear and anxiety and panic and paranoia and all those emotions. They love to trigger what is going to frighten or upset you in your dreams. It's just what they do. I call it their job. So they're basically getting you to create this so they can then feed off it. And that's the only reason. That's just what they do. So for this type of being, the best way to tackle these is to be firm but respectful again. Respect goes a long way, but you're not going to compromise. You are going to be firm. A firm tone of voice with no fear present, because they can read the fear. They can just sense it a mile away. So what you're going to do is, again, you're going to talk to them out loud. You can talk to them in your head, but when you say your requests, your statements, your prayers, whatever it is you're using out loud, it doesn't have to be loud. I'm not yelling. You are creating a vibration when you speak out loud. When you say your words with a firm, commanding type intent, but you're not swearing and you're not demanding, because they need to be respected. Otherwise, there's payback. Because I know I've dealt with the payback in the past. So I've learned you must be respectful. Take it from someone who has been pinched, punched, poked, prodded, pushed, and had electric shocks given to me by these beings. If you wake up and you've had a really horrible nightmare and you just feel like there's something in your room, you can sit up. So what you can say is, "You don't frighten me. Please leave my house. Off you go. Please go now. You don't scare me at all. You're not going to get what you want, so please go elsewhere." Now you can repeat it or not. You've made that firm statement. And then you just lie down, curl up and go back to sleep. They used to like to mess with my dreams because when I was younger, I don't like human suffering. So what do you think they would use in my dreams? Yep, exactly those things. And when I cottoned onto it, I went, "Oh, I know what you guys are up to." And I would just sit up and go, "You don't frighten me. It is not real. It is not real. It is not real. Please leave." And either away they go or they don't. Now, if they don't leave, there's another reason why they're present. Now, there could be a favourite vibration attached to the bed. And we're usually talking an emotional vibration, a mental health vibration like depression or anxiety or mental and emotional instability or alcoholism or domestic violence type behaviours, threats, suicide. There's lots of different vibrations these beings are attracted to. Now that can be attached to the bed, the room, the items, the ornaments next to your bed, or even you. So for this sort of clearing, you need to get an energy clearer who deals with these sorts of situations, because it takes time. It takes time to unpack, because if you don't remove the vibration, they're not going to go. Let's move on to summoned entities. Now these type of beings, oh my goodness, I've learnt about these in the last 3 years. These beings are sent to annoy and harass people by people. And sometimes they're sent just to harass you, causing sleep deprivation, poking and prodding and pushing and annoying you constantly when you're trying to sleep. And I know because I've dealt with it. Now, these beings can be stationed in, on, under, above, or around your bed, and even attached to your bedding. I've experienced that too. Now, when I worked it out, I went, aha! I was able to clear it again and again and again, and then I wasn't quite clearing it, and I went, okay, I've missed something. See where the detective work comes in? It's not like just wafting a bit of sage over your doona and yeah, Bob's your uncle, it's done. If these beings have been sent with intent to do some sort of harm, a bit of smelly smoke is not going to shift them. Now, these beings are responsive, and I've worked this out too, to removal, whether it's prayers or statements or spells. If you're that way inclined, you can write your own, or you can find them online in platforms with specific spell casting pages or groups. Now, I don't share what I use to remove summoned entities, because my practices are protecting many, many people, adults, kids, and even newborn babies. So if you've tried all the other methods that I've mentioned and you think they're spirits, and then you think they're elementals, and then you think they're dark beings, and they're still present, you really do need to get an energy worker in to do the clearing for you, because this person needs to be able to unpack what type of entity it is, what they're attached to, why they're still in the home. So I hope you found this interesting today and that you've got a bit more confidence to be able to do this work. Everything in this world comes down to focus, attention, and actions. It's basically what we do every single day. So have a go at removing these beings from your homes. Don't go annoying the dark and demonic beings by calling them out, calling them names. They will smack you down to size. I know I say that all the time. I do kind of love that statement because that's what they do. I've experienced it and I'm warning you, don't annoy them. If you've got summoned entities, you really do need to get an energy clearer in. So in episode 120, you're going to get a spooky insight into the supernatural communication methods. We're going to be talking about table tipping versus Ouija boards as a communication technique. Now, we might even talk a bit about automatic writing because I have a love of table tipping, but I have an adverse, I wouldn't say it's a fear, but I've had bad experience with Ouija boards. And we're just going to unpack it and see where that goes. Because I really don't want table tipping to be something that's going to summon entities or summon dark and demonic beings. I don't think it is. Because remember, everything is about focus, attention, and actions. So stay tuned next week for some interesting aspects that we're going to be looking at when it comes to ways that you can communicate with supernatural entities. If you like this spooky content of this episode today, please hit the subscribe button and you will get a notification when every new episode is released to the public. And stay tuned for many, many more episodes unpacking the strange and unseen aspects of the paranormal world around us. So thank you for joining me today. And don't forget, if you want to share a paranormal experience just with myself, or you would like me to share one of your experiences through my podcast, you can do a voice recording, or you can write out your experience and I will read it exactly as you have written. You can email me at spiritualbeing44@gmail.com. And for information on paranormal house clearing, you can visit my website, Spiritual Being. You will find the address in the description box. And I look forward to sharing this spooky space again with you next week. And remember, life is perfectly paranormal.